that sign over too a little bit.
Okay, thank you guys.
That one sign is blocking
That
the
sign
screen.
is blocking the screen.
What about this one?
Yeah.
There you go.
That's it.
There really ain't a whole lot to see up there anyway.
Okay.
All I'm showing you there is this is the steps we're using in the analysis, and then another screen which is nothing more than the calibration.
in the microphone?
So thank you guys, everybody, for coming. What we're going to do here today is we're going to use our Hanby field test kit to monitor the effectiveness of OMG's product called Eliminate. Eliminate uses a chemical oxidation process to clean or break down the hydrocarbon contamination in real time. So our test kits have been used the world over the last 33 years, so time tested and proven. The US EPA and the US Army Corps of Engineers have independently studied our kits and how closely they correlate to lab results. You have an effective field method if you can get a result in the field within 25% of a lab result, and both the EPA and the US Army Corps of Engineers found us to be within 10% of a lab result, which is exceptional. And that was over the last 32 years using the human eye as the optical, where you take your result and you compare it to these color calibration photo standards. But in November of last year, we developed a mobile app using the camera on your phone, so it standardizes the optical, replacing the varying human eyes with the camera on your phone, and snap a picture of that result, and the app will calculate the concentration level for you and produce a PDF report that's instantly shareable and stored for future reference. So it increases the level of accuracy and documentation. So what we're going to do first is we're going to use our kit. We're going to test this soil and show you the soil is clean. After we show that it's clean, we're going to contaminate it with crude oil, and then we're going to treat, or we're going to test again and show you the contamination level. Then we're going to treat it with the Eliminate product, and then retest it and show the results from the treatment. So everything, the steps are up here on the screen. Everything you need to do a test, it's right there in the kit. So the first step, as it shows on the screen, is get your scale out, put an empty beaker on it, measure out 5 grams of soil. We use 5 grams of soil because the EPA recommended sample size for doing soil analysis is 5 grams. Not to knock on the flawed method or anything, but there is a flawed method for soil sampling, and that's a T-plug, where you use to plug down and get your soil sample. But the problem there is you're measuring by volume different types of soil which have different weights associated with it. So the most accurate way to do a soil analysis is measuring it out by weight. So that's why we measure out the 5 grams of soil. So you measure out your 5 grams of soil, and then you add your extract solvent. And once you add your extract solvent, you stir it around. By stirring it around the extract solvent, you're increasing the surface contact of the solvent with the contaminant that's in the soil and pulling that out of the soil into the solvent. So by increasing that surface contact, now we've got the contaminant, if there was any, in our solvent, and we're going to pour that solvent from the beaker into the test tube up to the scribed line. Now, just as a side note, our solvent is measured out in 10 mils, and the scribed line on the test tube is 4.2 mils. The reason for that excess solvent is such that you got a result that was way off calibration scale, dark to black. You could actually perform all the way up to a 10 times dilution using the 10 mil graduated cylinder that's included in the kit to bring that calibration into range. So the telltale sign of contamination would be if this solvent was no longer clear, if it was dark. So we know that just by looking at the solvent that there's no contamination here, but we're going to add our color development reagent catalyst, which is the next step. And as soon as that white powder hits that solvent, if there was any hydrocarbon contamination, boom, color would pop. So this result here is going to be white, which represents 0 or blank, meaning no hydrocarbon contamination.
Is it immediate, or is there a prescribed time?
I'm telling you, as soon as the white powder hit that solvent, if there was any hydrocarbon contamination there, you would see it pop. And you're going to see that as we go forward when we have contamination there. So now that we know we have clean soil, we're going to contaminate that with this black gold right here. This is 35 gravity Eagle Ford Shale crude oil. We're going to make that soil dirty. Smells a little bit like money. A lot like money. We're going to stir it around, make sure all that soil is nice and contaminated. You know, dry side on the bottom didn't have any contamination. Just stir it around. Then you go through this 6 easy steps again. It should take about 4 minutes to get a soil analysis. A kit cost is $12.95 and it comes with 15 tests. The math there is $86 a test for those initial 15 because you're absorbing the equipment cost in the kit. After that, all you ever do is replace the reagents at $375 in sets of 15, which is $25 a test. And I've literally got customers who have a kit that's 25 years old using the same kit. All we've done is replace the calibration book to these color laminated books versus their old photo paper, but they're using the same kit for 25 years. So again, the step is get your empty beaker, put it on the scale, measure out your 5 grams of soil.
Front row, Joe.
Out there in the real world in the field, it doesn't have to be 5.00. It can be 4.8 to 5.2. It's more important to get that solvent on that soil sample as quick as you can and trap those light volatiles. Got your 5 grams of soil measured out. Put your extract solvent in there. Stir it around to do the extraction. Increase that surface contact of the extract solvent with the contaminant in the soil. And then a telltale sign of high contamination is when that solvent is no longer clear. So as she pours that over into the test tube at the described line, you're going to see that solvent's not clear anymore. Telltale sign of high contamination, which means we pulled that hydrocarbon crude oil contamination out of that soil and into the solvent. High contamination level. Good job. Now watch, as soon as that white powder hits that solvent, boom, that color's going to fill. That's how fast the chemistry works. So before she even shakes it, I'm going to have her hold it up and let you see that it's already changed color. You can see it right there on the outside of the test tube. So we haven't even shaken it out. Now when you shake it, 10-15 seconds, you'll fully develop that color to get the concentration level. So now we know we've got ourselves some highly contaminated soil. Fits over there somewhere between the 50 and the 100,000 ppm. I mean, by the human eye, I'm going to say it drops in there between the 50 and 100 and just call it 75 for now until we use the mobile app. So what we know now is somewhere around 75,000 ppm crude oil and soil. We got some contaminated soil there. So now we're going to clean it up. The first step in the process is going to that contaminated soil and adding some water. So she's going to dampen that soil a little bit. Basically, by dampening it, you're making the soil more permeable for when we add the solution, the Eliminate solution. So you don't need standing water or anything like that, just nice and damp. And we've even got some people in South America using salt water to do that. Now they kill the vegetation doing that, but they clean up. So the soil, the type of water you're using to do the dampening doesn't matter. In this case, we're using, tap water. So again, we brought the soil from the bottom that was dry up to the top, getting that wet now. Now that we've got our soil permeable by adding a little bit of the water, we're going to apply the Eliminate solution to it. Now there's 2 products here. You got Eliminate for soil, which is what we're demonstrating here, and you have Eliminate Plus for water. The same thing works for water as well. It's just as soon as you drop it in water, it gets diluted, so we have a different formula so it doesn't get diluted so fast. And likewise, over in our booth over there, we have a water kit as well. Our kits have been deployed on every major oil spill since Exxon Valdez. At Exxon Valdez, they flew my grandfather up to Alaska and he went around to the 5 major fish hatcheries and trained the staff on how to use our water kit to know when to release the salmon spawn after the spill so they didn't die. So largest inland spill in US history, the Ashland spill, the Monongahela River up Ohio and Pennsylvania border. It was so cold, it was 0 degrees outside. The water is coming up over the front of the tugboat and freezing. There was only 2 things they had to do water analysis on that tugboat. They had our water kit and they had a fluorometer. Well, the fluorometer needed electricity from the generators that were malfunctioning. So the only thing that could do for water sample analysis was use our water kit. My grandfather's favorite story. All right, so she sprayed on the Eliminate solution. And now this fork here is assimilating being out in the field using a tiller. Now, we're going to do it by using the tiller in this fork. If you're out in the field, you're creating surface contact of the solution with the contaminant. But this has been used in situations where there was infrastructure in the ground and you couldn't use a tiller. They've literally dumped it on top and let it migrate through the soil, and it followed the same contamination path that the contamination took, follows it and eats it right up. So it's a chemical oxidation process that's going on. It's breaking the bonds between the hydrogens and carbons in the hydrocarbon, and once they're broken into their individual elements, they're attaching to oxygen, they're oxidizing. And when hydrogen attaches to oxygen and carbon attaches to oxygen, you get water and carbon dioxide. So non-hazardous, non-toxic byproducts.
Sprayer is not.
You need a string
Hey,
nose.
woo!
Yeah, well,
Make sure you stir that up pretty good since we didn't get a spray out of that. We got a squirt.
it's broken.
Also, some of the questions we get asked is the soil type matter. Doesn't matter if it's sand, doesn't matter if it's clay, doesn't matter if it's wet, doesn't matter if it's dry for either of the two products. As you can see, we started earlier with a nice sandy, dry soil sample. Well, now with the addition of the water in the solution, we've got a more muddy. Doesn't make a difference. If you had a more clay in the sampling part, you'd want to just kind of smear it around and chop it up, just making sure you increase that surface contact of the solvent with the hydrocarbon contamination to pull it out. And then same thing here with the solution. You just want to make sure you get that solution nice and contacted with that hydrocarbon contamination. So now as you can see, as she's spooning that out, it's nice and muddy. But measure out our 5 grams of soil again. 5.42. Take a little out. Yeah, one of the other important benefits of using this Eliminate non-hazardous and non-toxic solution is the first thing it does is it kills the flash point. So if you're cleaning up like gasoline, you're worried about the ignition danger, it won't ignite. It also acts as a fire extinguishing agent. Randy's put out car fires with this stuff, and once you put out the car fire, I'm talking about a roaring car fire where firefighters can take 400 gallons of water to put it out. He put it out with 40 gallons in 2 minutes. So firefighting agent as well as ignition danger flashpoint killer. So we got our 5 grams of soil, added our extract solvent, stirred it around to increase that surface contact and pull that contamination out of the soil. Pour it into the test tube up to the scribed line. Notice that solvent going in there is clear again. That's a good telltale sign that the Eliminate worked. Oh, I've had some questions from time to time. Are you sure that Eliminate's not just masking your chemistry going on there? I said, well, you know what? If it's masking our chemistry, it's also masking your GC mass spec in your laboratory, because this has been validated by labs all over the U.S. So no, it's not masking the chemistry. So we went from that dark brown that represented about 75,000 ppm back down to that lighter color, which is somewhere about 2,000 ppm. The results that we got from the demos in our booth over there earlier, the first one from this morning started at 132,000 ppm. One treatment knocked it down to 5,000 ppm. The second one went from 120,000 ppm down to 800 ppm, both with just one treatment. In this case right here, you got something that's probably, actually it looks like it's, like I said, I said visually it's probably about 75,000 ppm, and over here now we went to about 2,000 ppm. I'm going to use the mobile app to go ahead and calculate those for anybody who wants to know what the numbers are or whatever, but I don't want to hold everybody too long to do that demonstration. So if you are interested in seeing it, I'm going to do it now. If not, any questions from anybody at this point?
Do you have anything, excuse me, for produced water, or is it just hydrocarbon?
Well, produced water has hydrocarbon contamination in it, so yeah, it works for that as well.
I'm talking about for chlorides.
Oh, not for chlorides, no. This has to be hydrocarbons. Is that the age-old question everybody asked, how much product to use? Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah, there's so many factors involved there. It's Randy's product, so I'll let him attack it.
So what is the contamination to begin with? We got to know that. We
So
gotta know
starting
what
concentration level is going to affect how much product. Soil type is going to affect how much product. Type of contaminant is going to affect how much product. That's like,
make surface contact.
they've used a gallon and treated 60 yards to 160 yards. It just depends,
Is it all
I've treated
obviously for
1 gallon
in-situ
for 16
treatment?
square feet.
Yes, sir.
I've treated 1 gallon for 100
And that's the big benefit is that instead of taking something and digging and hauling it off, it's about a 60% savings by just treating it right there in place in real time.
So how do you, what type of quantity do you buy there? How is it shipped?
55 gallon drum or 275 tote. I'm the test kit guy. We just do great joint presentations together.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's got the microbes and the enzymes and all that kind of stuff like that. They all use my